Hello, got a kind of a different video for you this time. It's kind of a rant. So we are watching some solo shuffle, being background. It's I think around 1k rating. It's not like, how would I say, the gameplay is not important, but I kind of wanted to have I guess a little rant about the Enhancement Shaman on how would I say, the most mistreated class in World of Warcraft in my opinion. At least by Blizzard. So my thing with Enhancement Shaman is I always kind of liked the class fantasy. Ever since I liked World of Warcraft, I mean, like, it's literally the class of troll. So I mean, it's kind of like for, I don't know, somebody who liked World of Warcraft before it was World of Warcraft, who played Warcraft 3, you know, who played Frozen Throne. For me, it's kind of, how would I say, a class that's nostalgic, you know, kind of a cool thing, you know, how would I say, you know, well, other people I can understand not liking the Enhancement Shaman or finding that the Enhancement Shaman a weird specialization. But the main things we're gonna talk here about is like how like Blizzard mistreats constantly throughout the years, how the same problems have always, it's just been the same problems with the Shaman. Like, I found stuff in Worlds of Draenor. I found like an actual like video from Worlds of Draenor where like he's showing the people on the forums, and people on the forums are asking for survivability in Warlords of Draenor. So, without further ado, let's kind of get into it. So, Enhancement Shamans, where do they sit? They're kind of, let's say, B tierish, C tierish, and it's mainly because of their survivability. So their survivability is all based on their healing, and their damage also, if you're speccing into it that way, or even if you're not spec'd like into a Stormstrike build, your damage still comes from a Maelstrom a lot. And if you're like being defensive, you have to spend that Maelstrom to heal. So Enhancement Shaman is always in this kind of bad situation where if you are like being targeted, which you're probably gonna be targeted as you're kind of squishy, you cannot ever really do your damage in PvP. Or at least if your damage is focused, like you're using a build that's focused on casting spells, an elementalist style build, well, you're not gonna be able to, you know, use your damage at least like a good 60% of the time because you're just gonna be trained. It's trained blue for a reason. So my first, how would I call it, reason why I think Enhancement Shaman has a problem in general is because I think Enhancement Shamans are not really being balanced as a melee class. They're being balanced as a kind of a shaman-esque class or whatever, right? They're always been kind of kept, they had to play by the rules of elemental and restoration while not really being given anything to kind of make them a melee class. Like, sure, they have the wolf jump thingy, but like it's literally the worst jump ability in the game. It's a charge with a 30-second cooldown. So it's just kind of a, I think, a weird position when you have a class that's supposed to be melee, range, and a healer, and all three specializations have the same mobility, right? So like even as an enhancement, especially now, like elemental and Resto got enhancement's mobility, but like enhancement didn't get anything extra. And that's where I think like Blizzard is making their biggest mistake with enhancement, is because like they're not treating enhancement as a melee class who needs things that melee needs, you know. So like a melee needs and the ability to stay in longer. So why doesn't the Enhancement Shaman have some special defensive ability or, right, defensive effect, kind of like Warlocks have a shield, right? Why don't the Enhancement Shaman have like an additional benefit from Earth Shield or something, right? As anything specific, right? Not something class or the whole class has it. No, anything that's gonna be specific to the class of Enhancement Shaman. So I think that's one of the things. Another thing is I actually genuinely believe Blizzard has favorites. I think Blizzard it's always been clear that certain classes are more favorited by Blizzard's developer team or whoever is like in charge of developing the classes. But as far as enhancement goes, it's, I would say, literally the bastard child, the black sheep of the family. Like, anytime Enhancement Shaman is good, nerf bat, over the head, over the head, right away. Like, since I've played in BFA, like Enhancement Shaman, like, by the way, I played since TBC a long time ago, but I made a break in Cataclysm. But since I've been back in BFA, the Enhancement Shaman has always had the same issue of survivability, like it's been years now, right? The same issue, and right, it's always getting nerfed anytime it deals extra damage, and extra good damage is nerfed immediately. So again, like I will reiterate, so we have this issue that it's just getting balanced the same way Elemental gets balanced, which I don't think is I don't think you can have Elemental and Enhance be as tanky, or just have the similar kind of tankiness, right? So even survival hunters who are a hunter, right, have additional abilities that make them a survival hunter, right? They have an additional, they have gap closers. First of all, they actually have gap closers on top of the hunter mobility they already have. They have mending bandage, they have PvP talents, you know. They have additional things that make them survive better than a normal hunter would. Enhance doesn't have any of those, like, basically. Like, you have instant heals, which are really, really strong, right? And that might, like, how would I say, like, you might say, like, oh, Elemental doesn't have as good heals. Okay, okay, but Elemental does not have to, like, sit in front of the face of the enemy. The Elemental can use a pillar to, you know, avoid damages, scary spells and stuff. So you just can't have a melee spec and a range spec, even if it's the same class, right? You can't have them as the same tankiness, right? You can't even have them, I would say, be doing stuff exactly the same. Like, I think melee classes should always be more consistent damage and have really high sustained damage. When a melee is on you, you should feel, you know, literal pain. You should not be like, oh, kiting a melee, right? And then the melee finally touches you and you're like, lol, right? While a range is just pew, 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 pew from range. So I don't think those are good design ways. But to go back into, like, why I don't think Blizzard doesn't love it, you can see it, right, in those design things. It's, I think, clear, right, that Elemental and Resto are favored, like, heavily favored. So, I don't know. I'm this point kind of like, even though I am so in love with the fantasy, for some reason, I don't know, I really just like the fantasy of Enhancement Shaman. I just don't think they are gonna ever be a class that's truly, like, just good, you know? Like, it's always gonna be dependent on, are their damage, is the damage, like, really good? Okay, they're a good class. Is their healing really good? Okay, they're a good class. If their healing and their damage is not good, right? Then they're just not a good class, and that's not, yeah, that's, again, bad design. That's just bad design from Blizzard's standpoint, because Blizzard never, like, even like a totem, just like to give back totems in some degree, right? Make Stone Skin Totem like a baseline thing, right? Or something for Enhancement Shamans where they're just like tankier than the other Shamans, but no. Like it's yeah, it's kind of an issue in my opinion, but I don't know, like for me, like the thing that broke the camel's back was like watching that, like, priests, druids, these classes that are not really having a problem, like specifically druids. Druids are fine in PvP, PvE. I think even in PvE, I think they're fine. So like druids getting a rework, you know, while we are getting no like information about shamans, like not even like a small hotfix buff. Like, it just shows, like, how little they care. I mean, other specs as well, right? Like Frost has kind of been, you know, I feel like since I've played again back in BFA, right? Since BFA, it's been always kind of in a shit situation, like, in my opinion. Like, it's always been, like, the moments it's been good, there's been moments, right? But, like, it's always been in a shittier situation than Unholy. So I just don't know, like, I feel kind of sad that Blizzard, like, plays these favorites, because I feel like ultimately it just hurts their game. It's just something that hurts the game overall. And I don't know. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And have a good day.